I see there are some people that they've now been here for a year or two, and they're no more knowledgeable about the world around them than they were when they came, because they're in a
for everyone, and there's enough room to go around. But you know, a lot of the if you want to call them haters, actually come from Black Americans. That's where it's like you get this thing and you just kind of shake your head like, wow.
Recently, I interviewed Jay Cameron on this channel, and he's an African American that has a tourism business all throughout Africa. But primarily, it does most of its business, I believe, in Ghana. And when we were talking about and giving a blueprint for African Americans to come to Ghana, I noticed we came across a common crux always in the conversation: African Americans having beef in Africa. And this is not so uncommon. I witnessed this in the diaspora all the time. And we talk about all the good things about coming to Africa, leaving white supremacy and all the opportunities. But what I notice here in Africa, amongst African Americans, is there is a scarcity mindset and a lack of people working together, especially in a tougher market and situation. But Jay Cameron isn't the first person to discuss it. Remember, Mark Meets Africa came here, and we talked about this same situation with African Americans in Tanzania. And here's what he had to say.
People the wrong way. Yeah, a lot of us came to Africa because we didn't like America.
Okay.
Or we didn't like the UK.
Okay.
Or we didn't like Europe.
Okay.
And I believe that was the first mistake a lot of us made.
Okay.
Was that we left in hatred. We didn't leave because we wanted to love and reconnect with our roots purely for that reason.
Okay.
And so because we left and we kind of sort of had bitterness in our heart, anger, frustration, valid frustration, but frustration nonetheless, it didn't make it easy to be in a new place. We come and we say, white people are the problem. Oh, I beg to differ. Every single race, every color, every country has problems.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't be fair to say they're the only issue.
Mm-hmm.
When are we going to turn the accountability towards ourselves and say, what can we do to change?
Mm-hmm.
How can we affect our future?
Mm-hmm.
We give all our power to the enemy, as some people say, because we refuse to accept any responsibility. And it doesn't mean that we say it's our fault. No, responsibility says your fault or my fault.
And within the community of African Americans, Hebrew Israelites in Tanzania, the Freedom Chasers, who I also met, doubled down on what Mark Meets Africa said. And they said this.
A lot of those same issues that we had in America just transferred over. And you have to think, a lot of the people that was going there had some type of trauma, you know, that they were escaping or running away from. And like we said in one of our other videos, thinking that they were going to come to Africa and all of their issues were going to be healed and everything was going to be fine, but soon realized that it was much harder than what they expected. So with that being said, it was a separation even with that group. And then it got to the point where the families in that group separated and was calling me like, oh, you should come to our congregation. This is why you should come to our congregation. And then other people called me, okay, this is why you should come. And it got to the point where...
And he was like, this is why we're not going to it.
Right. Yeah, it got to the point where it was just overwhelming. Right. Because it's like, why would I want to do that? Why are we separating over stupid stuff, right?
And the African superstar took it one step further. She said the diaspora in Accra were having problems similar to this.
You could see last year we had like the Black Star Festival where we had a lot of Black American rappers come here. Chance the Rapper was here, a lot of entertainers and things like that. So that's very beautiful, you know, and that's very encouraging to see that energy of all of us coming here and what we're creating. But then you have the negative things, the things that have not been checked, you know, in regards to how we interact with each other, how we...
What are those things? When you say the things that have not been checked, can you...
Well, I mean, quite frankly, a lot of members from the diaspora, they're coming to the continent with a lot of baggage, you know, emotional baggage. They're coming to the continent very ignorant about how things are here in Africa. And some of them are not willing to become abreast of their environment. So you have pockets of the diaspora, for instance, that they only fraternize with themselves. They don't integrate with the locals. They're not interested in trying the food or learning the language. They kind of have this superiority complex to the.
And of course, me being in Uganda, I have noticed the same problems. It's not so much with African Americans in Kampala, but more of a diaspora issue. And that could be Black British based, African American, Ugandan American, all of those things included. But for whatever reason, we have a tough time working together. And I think that we feel because America is the reason for our failures, we're not thinking about it could be our mindset is the reason for our failures. And most of us have never had to work together in the United States or Britain. We've just never had to until you have to work together when you come to a place like Kampala or Accra or those situations, because everything is about community there. You see, if you can't work together with people in the United States, you can't believe that you're going to come together and start working together with people here in Kampala or in Africa. And it always starts off nice. It starts off great. People hang out, people start making food together, people hang out together. But of course, the first time of trouble, that's when the beefs happen. And what I notice is we don't really have elders in these communities that can come in and mitigate these problems. Of course, there are going to be problems with people from every group. You're going to have a lot of good people coming. You're going to have a lot of bad people coming. But in that mix, we need leadership. We need elders to come in and say, okay, listen, this is how the community is supposed to work. You know, you're not supposed to talk to that person like that or vice versa, and then get everybody back on track. But we miss that, I believe, in these communities. So we typically have people who are in leadership or who want to be in leadership, but they are not good leaders. So the problems just go ahead and they fester. And so what happens when you see these problems, the local community can kind of figure it out. And when they do, then that's when you really are powerless. We talk about scams, we talk about the price going up. Yeah, it's going to happen even more when you have those situations. What needs to happen is this. Again, there are going to be problems in every community. We need to be very upfront about those problems and be respectful when those things come about. Instead of, taking my section of people over here and your section of people over there, and then, people playing both sides of the fence. And that happens a lot in the diaspora. People play the both sides of the fence. You'll see people going and telling folks this, and then going back and telling folks that. And it's really bad in America, but it's even worse here when you don't have that big of a community and you don't have that many resources. So when you're in a community like this, you need all the resources that you can get. Here in Kampala, in our community, we share a lot of resources. We really try to come together because there's not that many of us. And when we do, we make a lot of things happen. That's why the Repat podcast is one of the few podcasts like this on planet Earth, because we have a lot of community here, a lot of skill community here. We really help each other, whether it's in doing a podcast, if it's meeting up, if it's doing dinner, if it's planning, if it's activations, we're all there, right? And it's not that big of a group. We're a very small group, but we're a very effective group. Knock on wood for now. Who knows what kind of stuff will happen in the future? I hope I'm just joking. I didn't leave America to come to deal with no silly stuff. But that's the reality. We got to understand that there's enough opportunity for everybody, not just me, not just you, for everybody. And then again, I see another issue that happens in the diaspora community in Africa. It's a us versus them mentality. And let me talk about that because that's very easy to do. Let's say, for example, I'm an African American, right? Well, there always might not be African Americans in communities. You will probably see a community that runs like this. African American, let's say if you're in Ghana, Ghanaian American, you also see British American and Caribbean running in the same communities, almost certain. That's how it typically is, especially in Uganda. You will see Ugandan Americans, you will see some Ugandans, you will see some African Americans, and you will see some Caribbeans, all in the same community. But then that community typically might be very separate from like a local community, right? And one of the reasons why is because one group may not trust another group in business or in, just everyday life, because, typically the diaspora group feels that, we're going to get taken advantage of by another group. So we need to come together and do that. But then what that creates, although it tends to be true, it creates some level of division, us versus them. And again, it has to be pretty much set straight away. Like, listen, we know what it costs to do this, or we have somebody in our community that happens to be a Ugandan that lives here locally. They know how to communicate with the group that's in the local community. We need to still mitigate that as much as possible instead of creating a lot of animosity. But back to the main topic. The main issue is African Americans in Ghana are having problems. African Americans in Gambia have a lot of problems, or the diaspora. And then African Americans in Tanzania are having a lot of problems without the local community being involved. And one of the reasons why that is, and I'm gonna always keep talking about this, we've never had to work together, all right? We've never had to achieve something in America. It's typically already set up for you. All of the working together and things like that usually came from our parents, our grandparents, and so now we're beneficiaries of their hard work. But let me tell you, when you come to Africa, you're going to be forced to work together. And if you can't work together, you're going to be a person that's going to be ousted out the group real quick. So you're going to have to deal with people who you would never deal with if you lived in the United States. Let me say it again. You're going to be friends with and dealing with people that you would never deal with in the United States. And you're going to be almost forced to work with those people, right? It's not something that you really want to hear, but it's something that's true. A lot of people, let's say that I'm friends with now, let's say DJ Maintain, he might not like me if I was in London. It might not even look my name up or wouldn't even care to talk to me. But because we're in Kampala, he has to deal with me here and there sometimes, right? And I like Maintain personally, so it's not like I'm trying to say he doesn't like me. But I'm just using the example that if I was living in London, we might not be friends. But because we're here and we're working together, yeah, we've become good buddies and allies for each other. Same thing with the Gaba. He might not even talk to me if I lived in the United States because he would have other opportunities to make more friends. But guess what? We're here together. So we have to be friends because we have to have each other's back. It's just kind of how it is. But if you don't get that, you really won't do well in any part of the African world. You need to understand that, hey, that person might be a little harder to deal with. That person might not be the best person that I want to deal with, or that person might be the person you do want to deal with. But you're going to be living and working with people that you have never had, you've never thought you would ever work with in your life. And you just need to understand that's what it takes. Nobody said it's going to be easy, and nobody said it's going to be, nobody said the road was going to be easy, but this is the road that we have chosen to take. It's not going to be all vacations and, hanging out all the time and on the beach. No, when you have projects here in Africa, you're going to work. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to work like you've never worked before. You're going to invest energy like you've never invested energy before. And right now, in this time, whether you're coming to Africa or you're living here, you're going to have to really share information. And sharing that information, don't feel like you're sharing this information and somebody's going to double cross you. And that could happen. But don't let that stop you from being a good person. There are plenty of opportunities and plenty of great people that can help you here and do some magnificent things. You don't need to try to hoard all of the opportunities to yourself because typically you wouldn't be able to get them all. If you come together with your brothers and sisters, I'm telling you, you can do a lot of amazing stuff. Things that you've never thought that you can do. I'm gonna give you my own testimony. I had never worked with a team outside of work until I came here in 2020. Now I've been coming here since 2017, but when we got stuck here in COVID during 2020 and we were all living in an apartment, like 9 of us, it forced me to have to work as a team with people because it was COVID and I had nowhere to go. I couldn't go back home. I couldn't go back to Europe at the time. I couldn't even get out of here really and go back to America. If I did, I would have lost the business, but I needed to keep the business. So I had to learn how to work with people in a small house, right? And I had to do what I had to do to figure it out. And because of that, we have Kenganda to this day. And we've made a lot of strides because of that sacrifice and learning how to work with people. Have I gotten it wrong many times? Absolutely. I lost this whole entire business before getting it wrong. But now I'm on the path to getting it right. And it's okay to make mistakes here when you're here. You're gonna mess up. You're gonna offend people. You're gonna do things that are probably, unfavorable to others. But just make sure that you apologize and make sure you mean it, and make sure you still get the trust of people in the group and in the community, and people can get over it. But if you're that person that just can't work together with people, if you're that person that's a backbiter, if you're that person that's selfish, if you're that person that's mean-spirited, you're gonna have a tough time in the diaspora working here in Africa. If you return, then you're just not gonna get opportunities. You're gonna get left out of the group. When people find things out, they just won't tell you, and you're more likely to go back than anybody else. And we don't really want that for you. We really want you to come and enjoy and come and build and come and get to know people and come and get to know things. And yes, you're gonna get disappointed, and yes, you're definitely gonna get scammed. I don't know if it's gonna be $1 or $1,000, but that's also okay because it's your path to a greater situation in your learning curve and dealing whatever country you want to deal in Africa. But the problem that we must mitigate, guys, is fighting within the diaspora. Instead of looking for what opportunities you can get for yourself, think about how you can develop the community that you're going to be in. Think about what value that you can be in the community that you're going to be in. For example, on November 25th, 2023, we've partnered with Zambali Restaurant in Nakasero to have a speed networking event. And yeah, Kenganda is one of the sponsors. We're spending our own money to try to get people to come. And yes, it's a free event because we wanted to give value for the community. Why? Because it's about building the community and not necessarily building us, right? We get views on the channel and we do very well for the channel, but we want people to come and enjoy. And guess what? From us doing things like that, everything gets better, and even we benefit on the back end. So that's the message that I want to share with you today. Don't come to Africa or any country in Africa hard to work with. Don't come here with a scarcity mindset, hating on people, thinking that you're going to be the billion-dollar businessman all by yourself. Everybody needs help. You can't make money let me leave you with this. Making money is a team sport, and money is very social, especially in Africa. If you really want to make money and you really want to be out there adding value to people, you gotta be social. It's a social skill. You have to be likable. You have to add value. And if you can do that, then you won't have problems getting money. And if that's what you really want, that's what you really probably will, that's what you'll get. But at the same time, think about the opportunity of adding value to others in your group. Think about adding value to your own African American community in Ghana or Uganda or Tanzania, or the whole entire Black British community in Uganda, or the Ugandan American community, or the Ghanaian American community, or the overall diaspora, or the overall country. Think about that. Think about giving to the society instead of taking from the society, and you're less likely to become a hater, which is what Jay Cameron was talking about. You don't need to hate on people in the same industry and business because there's too much opportunity with people in business. You can all come together and get all the money, and people would love to see a united front of Blacks working together instead of Blacks being so divided trying to do their own individual things. But guys, it's your boy O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of Fair Use here on the Kenganda channel. I really hope you guys subscribe and like what I just said today. We're out.